Well, this and this, believe it or not, is a key to you developing your intuition. Your ability to listen and receive the guidance from your spirit guides who are here with you 24/7 trying to communicate to you, giving you these intuitive downloads so that you can actually know what that next step is. Make that important decision so that it actually fits who you are. So you've probably made some decisions, maybe even been in that place where you don't know what to do and you make one just out of desperation. Well, or maybe you've made decisions and then you've seen later that you don't like what's happened. Well, today we're going to talk to you not just about painting. We're going to talk to you about listening, because listening is one of your most important skills you need to develop your intuition. So have you ever wished that you could get those intuitive downloads, those intuitive messages, so that you would have some ease in making those decisions, that you would have like some ability to know what that next step is rather than wondering what it is? Well, I'm going to share with you today how you can begin to listen so you can get those intuitive messages, the intuitive guidance from spirit, and so you can actually apply it so that you can have more ease and flow in your life. Hi, I'm Deepa. I call myself the Creative Mystic, and welcome to my Sacred Art Studio. This is where it's a place we connect with spirit through the spirit guides that are all around us, where we use our creative powers to help us grow spiritually, and most importantly, it's a place for you to have a direct experience of the divine yourself. Now, I bet you've had tiny nudges and intuitive feelings, but maybe you've had some where you were probably too afraid to act on them because it didn't seem logical or practical or responsible. Or maybe you just worried about, is this my ego or my intuition? Because I know I've had that as one of my biggest questions that I get from my clients, is that they worry, is it ego or intuition? Okay, so we're going to talk about exactly what you need to start doing, okay, so you can get those and start to know when it's your intuition, okay? So before we get going, we are going to invite in the spirit guides, okay? We're going to do a little prayer, and then we're going to ring the bell and say, hello, God. Hello, spirit guides. Now, this is about creating sacred space in your space, not just here with me where I am physically, but your space. And it's always about how do you create the sacred space within yourself, okay? Because that is the most important sacred space. Now, I'm going to ring this bell. I'm going to do a little short prayer. We're going to ring the bell. And as the bell's ringing, once I end it, after I say hello to spirit, I'm going to do another intentional prayer. And then I'm going to kind of begin. And I was already told by Our Lady of Guadalupe that she's coming. I'm going to close this window here, sorry. She's going to be coming in and giving intuitive guidance about your intuition. So and the way I hear it is she's going to actually give us some things to do today. Now, you might not have all the materials to do them, but the beauty about technology is you can go look at it later again and do it again. So let's just take that moment now. And close your eyes for a moment, unless you're driving. And to focus on your breath for a moment. Breathing in and out. And as you focus on your breath, I'm going to make that intention as you focus on your breath with that next inhalation to draw on the energy of focus. And on the exhalation, let go of any distractions, any business of the day, so that you can be fully present. And on that next deep belly inhalation, draw on the energy of divine presence. And on the exhalation, allow that divine presence to expand into every fiber of your being. And as I ring this bell, I want you to say, hello, God. Hello, Spirit. Hello, my spirit guide. Hello, God. Hello, my spirit guide. Hello, to whomever is here to guide me with higher guidance. We invoke thy presence of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who so graciously volunteered to be here and guide us in the very thing we need to be able to listen and receive the intuitive messages, the higher guidance, the guidance of flow and ease and growth. And allow that bell to resonate into every fiber of your being, allowing the divine presence of Our Lady of Guadalupe to help penetrate the layers of your consciousness so that you be open and receptive to all the blessings, to all the guidance, to all the wisdom. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, Great Spirit of the Universe, and specifically Our Lady of Guadalupe, who so graciously volunteered, we ask that our hearts and minds be open and receptive to all the guidance and all the blessings, and especially to what we need to realize in embracing not just the wisdom, but the ability to receive and act so that you can get the intuitive guidance that will bring flow and ease to your life. Om. Peace. Amen. Great. So thank you for being here and inviting them in with me. And you might be thinking when you saw me hold up the paintbrush and the paint, like what does this have to do with intuition? That you may have taken a lot of classes about it, but still see yourself struggle. But from my experience, okay, I have found that this process of using creativity, of painting, of connecting with spirit, with the spirit guides, it has opened up my spiritual gifts, and I want it to open up yours. Specifically, we're going to focus today on the gift of intuition. Now, everybody has this gift, but it's just a matter of whether you actually know how to receive the guidance and whether you are listening. Remember I said earlier, Our Lady of Guadalupe told me, listening, the skill set of listening is one of the most important skill sets you need to develop your intuition. And she's having me repeat it because most people are like kind of like, whatever, how can listening be the key? But it is, okay? Now, it's not listening just with your ears, with how you hear, okay? And that's the key she wants you to get. Now, she wants me to share this with you so you can believe that this can happen for you, because she's saying that I'm not special, I'm no different than you in the sense of, yes, I'm in what we would call a different body, but we're all one, we're all connected, we all have this ability. Now, what manifests in our lives, the gift we have, might be slightly different, but intuition is something that everybody has, okay? And everybody has access to it. Now, the key that might be different is how you receive the message may be different than how I receive the message. And that's what Our Lady of Guadalupe wants me to communicate to you, okay, is that there are different ways to receive the message. And so you have to start to pay attention. So, but the creativity will work for everybody, she's saying, okay? Now, she wants me to share a little bit about my story. I was a very non-visual person for years. I've been on the spiritual path for 40 plus years, okay? And when I would do any kind of meditation or any guided meditation, I would see nothing. Even if they said, they guided you and they said, see the golden ball of light, or the white rose, or the whatever, nothing. I would see nothing. And it wasn't until I had taken an art class that I loved always making things. But I didn't have any real training in any like painting or anything, but I loved to make things. And so because my wife suggested, why don't you take an art class you love? So she would see me sketch little drawings, okay? And I would sketch little things, and she would say, oh, you should take this art class. So I took it, and I loved it, okay? Now, that's the first thing about following your intuition is, what do you love, okay? But I loved it, and so I took this art class, and as I learned and started to paint, I then decided, oh, I want to paint a person. And the first person that I wanted to paint in my heart's desire was Yogananda. So Yogananda's right there. You might not be able to see him if you're in the vertical. If you want to get a bigger viewpoint, you might want to go to the horizontal of this live, just because you can see everything I'm pointing to. But Yogananda, I wanted to paint him, but I had this secret desire in my heart that I wanted to paint him where when people looked at the painting, they would feel his power, his vibration, his blessings. And but I didn't want to tell anybody I had this feeling, had this desire. I just kept it to myself. And I did all these things that I was being guided to do to infuse his energy, his vibrations that I was doing. And when I got done, a co-artist in the studio, because at that time I painted in an artist studio with lots of other artists, and came by and said, hey, Yogananda's in the house. And I thought, oh, well, I did a pretty good job, okay? But that wasn't the amazing part of the story. The amazing part of the story was I put Yogananda up to dry, and I came back a week later, and this person who I'd never seen in the art studio comes up to me because I'm checking out Yogananda and seeing, is he dry? And she says to me, are you the one who painted Yogananda? And I turned to her all calm and said, yes, I am. And she said, oh, I just have to tell you, when I look at this painting of him, I can feel his power, his energy. I feel like I'm being blessed by him. And I know because I'm a disciple of his. And on the outside, I went, thank you. But on the inside, I was like, oh my God, it worked, it worked, it worked, it worked. And that was the beginning of it opening up my gifts. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole story, but it awakened the ability for me following these heart's desires of bringing in the connection of painting with spirit. Okay, it started off with just painting with spirit, and that turned into me getting visions of spirit guides and their downloads of what they wanted to bless the world with, to bless you with, if you're watching this, okay? That each of these visions come with a complete blessing that is here to help transform you, to help you to have the consciousness shift, the healing shift, whatever shift you're needing so that you can have the change within yourself that then brings change to your life, okay? And so what Our Lady of Guadalupe wants me to tell you is this is possible for you. Now, she's saying your gift may look different than Deepa's, okay? It may not be visions that she gets messages from the spirit guides. Yours may look slightly different, but she's saying, you have a gift, okay? Now, the gift of intuition, she's saying, is for everybody to actually start to develop so that you can get that ease and flow in your life. And when you start to develop the gift of intuition, that spiritual gift of intuition, that brings a level of growth that will allow you to step into that next stage of development. Because she wants me to share with you, before I started to get these visions, I had honed my abilities of my intuition, of listening to it. I had learned how to recognize the language of the intuition and when it was guiding me, okay? And so this process is available to you, okay? So it's going to start with an intention that you have, all right? So I want to look here, there's a few comments. Hi, John. Okay, well, thank you, John, for all your shares and comments as always. And please give a shout out to where you're from and introduce yourself. I love to see people's names and where you're from. It's fun to see if you're in a different area. But the whole reason why I recommend a shout out of where you're from As lo and behold, sometimes you find somebody who's in the same town as you. And wouldn't it be nice to find another spiritual seeker, another spiritual soul that's interested in developing their intuition, that's interested in spirit? Because I know sometimes, often, people can feel alone. And so I invite you to, if you're on live, to go ahead and give an introduction of yourself and where you're from. All right? So, one of the things we're going to do today, which is different, is, now you may not have this, okay, and I invite you, if you don't and you want to develop your intuition, to get this later and watch the video later, because like I said, one of the beauties of technology is you can watch it again. And that's the great thing about it, okay, is you want to have a canvas. We're going to use a small one today. We're going to use this canvas, and we're going to put it up here, because the canvas is where you're going to let the flow happen, okay? You want to get some paint. Now, I use oil paints, okay? If you like acrylics, you can use acrylics. I don't recommend using watercolors for this process of developing your intuition, because watercolors are not forgiving. I've done a little watercolor painting, and you have to have planned things out in your head. And for this practice to be a tool, a practice to help your intuition grow, you want something that would be forgiving. And so that you can feel free to just follow the nudges and act on what you're getting, okay? So you're going to get a canvas, you're going to get paints. Now, if you're new to painting and you've never done it, I'm going to tell you to get the primary colors, warm yellow and cool yellow. You're going to see on my palette, I have yellow, blue, and red, because those are the primary colors. And you can mix those to get almost all the other colors, because all the other colors come from the primary colors, okay? Now, it might not be the exact shade, because you have to fiddle around with it, but this is not about creating great art, okay? This is about developing your ability to listen. Now, again, listening is not necessarily with what you're hearing. Listening is that, what I call the still small voice, the whisper. Again, not necessarily with your ears, because that still small voice might speak through your body and what it's telling you. Now, if you're highly sensitive or an empath, you are going to probably feel sensing in your body, okay? Sensing in what you feel called to do. And that is the beginning of your intuition. You have to start to listen, pay attention. That's what part of listening is. Have a level of awareness, a high level of awareness, to notice when you have that pull, to notice when there's something that you're feeling. And we're going to actually do it here some for you to get to actually see what it's like, okay? So I recommend getting those colors, the 3 primary warm colors, 3 primary cool colors. Now, I use Gamblin color paints. I don't get anything from saying it. I love Gamblin color oil paints because they're forgiving. They're forgiving. They're the least non-toxic paints, because they really try to find ways to make them so they're not toxic. And I use cadmium yellow light as the cool yellow, cadmium yellow medium as the warm yellow. I use Prussian blue as the cool blue, and ultramarine blue as the warm blue, and alizarin as the cool red, and cadmium red light as the warm red. Just in case you want to do this, so you know. Again, you don't have to do the colors I have, just primary colors, warm and cool color, if you're an artist already and you know what those are, all right? I'm just, for those who are beginners, you want to know that, okay? So now the first thing is, after you've got your materials, what do you need to do? A prayer of intention, an intentional prayer. So we're going to do that. I'm going to start doing this process with you. Oh, and one thing, if you are somebody who, like, you know, this feels right to you, like you've been trying to find a home as someone who's a creative, an artist, a mystic. That's why I call myself the creative mystic, because I'm creative. I love to make things, and I'm also a mystic. I love to have experiences of the divine. I'm going to be opening up what I call the Creative Mystic Temple. Community, a spiritual community that's based on serving you as someone who is a creative mystic, an artist, and a spiritual seeker, a spiritual soul. Somebody who is looking to grow spiritually, utilize their creative powers to grow spiritually, because that's what it really does when you actually access it. And if you'd like to be part of this, I'd love it if you get in on my wait list. There's going to be special benefits, a discounted price. I'm going to put this up here for you so that if you want to get on there, you can, for founding members. And there's going to be some special classes too for founding members. So if you want to get the email when it's going to be launched and get all those special benefits and actually be in this community where you get supported, please join that, okay? And also, just so you know, if you want, subscribe so you get notified for the next one. Because one of the things about intuition is that I have some people I've met that say, yes, I have good intuition. I get downloads. I know it. And I'll ask them, well, do you follow it? And I'll be like, sometimes, sometimes not. And how can you get yourself to trust it, that you can follow it 99% of the time? And that's going to be the next topic next week, okay? Because I do this live weekly, so just so you know. So if you'd like to get to know about that, today we're going to talk about how the listening part of intuition and the practice to do it. And then next week we're going to talk about the trusting part and practicing this with the art, okay? So again, let's start. You're going to get a canvas. You're going to get the supplies. You're going to have a prayer of intention. Now, your prayer of intention today is about the intention of growing your ability to listen and receive your intuitive guidance, your intuitive messages, okay? So you do a prayer of intention that way. Now, I'm going to, and I usually light this earlier, light this ghee lamp as I make this intention. And it's also lit for every one of you who is watching this now or in the replay, about making that intention, that prayer of intention, that you begin to receive that intuitive guidance, that you develop the ability to listen in more ways than with your ears, okay? And we're going to do this last little part that I always like to do, because before you develop your ability to listen, you have to start to have the habit, the practice of actually making a prayer of intention. And I say a prayer of intention because you don't want to have a begging prayer that, oh, please, please, please make this happen. You want to have an intentional prayer of, this is where I'm putting my attention so that I can bring forth the wisdom, the guidance from spirit, from my spirit guides. Now, all the paintings that you see in the view are from our spirit guides that I've had visions of and that I've created. There's a whole wall over here you can't see, but we're going to make that prayer of intention that your canvas is going to help you in your development, in your skill set of listening to intuitive guidance. So we're going to infuse that into this canvas, this prayer of intention. So you say, Spirit, I'm going to say to Our Lady of Guadalupe, because Our Lady of Guadalupe has volunteered to be here with you and help you in this process. And she wants me to tell you that the reason why she volunteered is she is the only form of Mother Mary that has ever been depicted as pregnant. And the way they know she's pregnant is the clothing that she's wearing at the time period that this was created. So she's saying to actually do that prayer of intention, the prayer of intention with the flame. The flame is there to help you transform your consciousness, to transform your ability to receive, be open and receptive. And she's saying she wanted the flame to be lit because fire is transformative. it changes one form into another form. It goes from a piece of paper to ash in a matter of seconds, and the ash goes from ash to often sometimes to the unseen. So she wants me to hold this up to the camera because she wants you to invite in by sweeping in the flame to bring transformation to your consciousness so you can receive the blessings that Our Lady of Guadalupe has to give you today. All right? So then you take the canvas and you do your prayer of intention to move your little self aside and let Spirit, Our Lady of Guadalupe, flow through you. You can feel the guidance. You can hear the guidance. You can see the guidance. And make that intention that you are open and receptive to however Spirit wants to communicate the guidance to you. So I'm going to put this over here. So one of the things besides making that prayer of intention, then you can now take some deep belly breaths because, excuse me, belly breathing. One of the reasons why Our Lady of Guadalupe wants you to do this, before you actually pick up the brush, is to calm the mind. See, the idea of how you start to follow what you're sensing, because it could be something that you sense in your body. It could be a sensing of what you're to do. It could be something, some words floating across your head, your mind, in your head. For some, they actually hear things, but it's very few who do. It might be something you see that you can feel a pull towards. But she's saying when you're listening, it is about paying attention, having the high level of awareness to notice what you notice. And it's noticing the pull of your heart. Your heart's desires may show up in a sensing in your body, a pull to do something. And when you actually paint and go and move yourself aside to let Spirit flow through you, you start to know what you're going to place. And Our Lady of Guadalupe is saying, when you do this practice, you have to quiet the voice of judgment and criticism and release the goal of trying to be good, okay? Of trying to make great art, because that's not what you're doing here. What you're doing here is you're doing the process of listening. You're practicing listening. You're practicing to notice what you become aware of. And you sit quietly, doing that deep belly breathing. So you quiet the mind. Now, focusing on the breathing, you focus on the inhale and the exhale. Now, if you find your mind wandering, just bring it back to focusing on the breathing. Now, I'm not going to teach you this today, but she's saying that in a future episode, if you want to learn to meditate, it's something, well, she's saying something that I'm going to be teaching in the Creative Mystic Temple, the community, so you can get on the wait list for that. But also, you can just start with breathing and having quiet time. And taking that moment to breathe in, focus on the inhale, and focus on the exhale. Of doing it slow and deep in your belly, and slow and exhale. so that you can experience the calming of the mind, because the breath and mind are connected. When you calm the breath, you calm your mind. And one of the key things to listening, to noticing, to being aware is calmness. And your breath, by just controlling the breath, can begin the journey of calmness. Okay? So, as you feel that calmness, then you go, okay, what spirit? Now I'm going to say, Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe, what are you guiding me to do? Now, she's coming through and telling me to mix colors. So she doesn't want me to just use the primary colors. She wants me to mix colors. So I'm going to turn around so I can talk with you a little bit this way and mix the color here. So I'm not having to have my back to you. Whoops, almost. Okay, so she wanted me to mix some colors. And if you happen to have something where you can mix away what you're being called to do. Now, I'd love it if you share, did anything come through for you, if you're doing this process. And if you're not doing it now, because I know some of you didn't know I was doing this, you can let me know in the future, in the comments, in the video later, okay? So, she's guiding me to see. So it's just this process of paying attention to what are you sensing that you should do. Not from your head of what you think you logically want to make or what color something is. You want to take on the mindset, Our Lady of Guadalupe is saying, of like a 3-year-old. That's what she's saying. A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, but more she's saying like a 3-year-old. Like if you were doing finger painting, you wouldn't be trying to like, oh, I'm trying to create art. I'm just trying to like take the colors and lay them down, right? So you pick the colors by what you want to do. Not no judgment when you're 3 about what color goes with what color. You know, the rules of thirds, you just throw all those out the door. Because if you're trying to be good, you can't be following your intuitive guidance. There's no way it can be happening. So she's saying, if you start to notice that voice of, oh, I want this to look good, I want this to be good, she says, take a breath. Take a deep belly breath and release that voice and say, I release the need to be good. I release the need. She's saying of worrying about what other people think. See, so now, and when she's saying that you mix the colors, when I mix the colors, it's like this little meditative process, and she wants you to actually do it with that idea of that, like you're meditating at this point with color. You're meditating with the idea that I'm creating, just following the little feelings that I'm getting. Now, like even when I'm creating these colors now, I'm mixing them and you can't see them right now, but I'm looking at the colors, and if I let my ego come in, I'm like, oh, these colors are not exactly pretty. But I'm not going to worry about that, because this isn't about being good. This is about following what I feel like I want to mix together. Because when you're following your intuition, Our Lady of Guadalupe is saying that it doesn't always make logical sense. It doesn't follow any rules. It follows higher guidance of what Spirit is guiding you to. And she wants me to share with you, like when I first got the download that I could tune into somebody's energy, meditate with them a little bit, and see their spirit guide that's there to help them with manifesting their purpose. When I got the download to put that on my website, I was like, at a point in my life where I followed divine guidance, but I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. But I put it up anyway because I was like, well, I'm getting to do this. I'm going to put it up. And there was no logical reason why I would put that up on my website because I didn't even know if I could do it at the time. I do know now because I've done several of them. But at that time, I did not know. And so if you go by logic or what you've been able to do in the past, even though that'll stop the flow of your receiving in a second. Unless you have the ability, like when I got the download, I was like, okay, I guess I'm putting this up on my website. But I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anyone to know because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But I followed the part I got until, if you've heard the whole story, there's another level to the story. But the point is that Mother Mary wanted me to let you know that you have to quiet the voice of logic and responsibility. So anytime that voice comes up while you're mixing paint or doing colors or anything, you want to just say, thank you for sharing, but we're going to go ahead and go with what we're feeling so that it quiets down. It needs to be heard. You have to acknowledge it. If you keep saying, oh, and ignore it, it'll keep rearing its head even louder. So part of developing the practice of listening is acknowledging when something, even the ego is speaking, because the voice that is telling you this is not logical, this is not responsible, is your ego. It is not spirit at all. Spirit doesn't talk about logic or responsibility or what you were able to do before. That's your ego trying to keep you in the same spot, okay? Now, you'll see that I painted, I mixed different colors. I've got some weird, looks like not a red, a brownish red, a purpley color, another green color, and another kind of bluish green color. Now, I'm going to stop there, okay? But I want you to think about you practicing this. Whoops. Now, we're going to go to the next stage. Let me see if there's any questions up here. So, John, I think the squirrel was a message. You might want to check up what a squirrel means by animal speak or something if a squirrel came to your window. Because, this is the thing about when I said about your intuition, about listening, it's what do you see, what do you sense, what do you hear. If I see certain things come into my realm of my world and I haven't seen it, it's not like you don't have squirrels running around your house every single day, and that's just commonplace for you. But if it's something unusual or different, I go, what is that squirrel supposed to communicate to me? Like if I see a hawk flying or something out, because that's your intuition speaking to you. It's just coming from an outer thing that is presenting itself to you. Now, often intuition starts to speak that way to people because we're very outward oriented as human beings. Right? We've been programmed to worry about what other people think, which is outside of you. Worry about how things look, which is outside of you. Trying to get awards, which is outside of you, right? It's all outside of you. And so often intuition will start to speak through to signs that you see. And sometimes it's literally a sign. We had somebody who, a client of ours that said she kept reading a billboard that was giving her a clear message. She'd never seen the billboard before, and it kept saying it. It could be a sign of music. We had a client once that we were doing, my wife and I were doing a weekend, it was like a 4-day trip, to go visit this icon and have an experience with the spirit guides. And someone who was on our main list, who knew us, had done some little things with it, but nothing like a weekend thing. And she was like, okay, well, should I do this? Should I not? She couldn't make up her mind. And so she finally asked Spirit. And said, okay, Spirit, if I'm supposed to go to this weekend retreat, I want to hear this song between the time that I'm driving in my car to the time I get home, because she was driving from one place to another. And lo and behold, that song came on as the next song. And of course, she signed up. So sometimes it's something physical. Now, what we're going to help you to do is to learn how to listen, like, internally. Because if you always have to wait for something on the outside to give you information, you might not get the answer when you need it. And you also may not recognize it because you might be busy in your life. So the painting process, by making that intention of, I'm doing this painting with the intention of developing my intuition, of receiving intuitive guidance, intuitive messages, intuitive inklings. You're going to do it by the process of painting. So after you've painted some colors, you're going to get some paintbrushes of whatever size you feel like you want to get. And then you're going to just feel your way through of, like, what color am I supposed to put down next? It's not about making anything. It's just about what color am I feeling called to put down next. And trusting the process. Now, here's the key. You got to trust the process of intuitive flow. Because sometimes what you get makes no sense whatsoever. Okay? And so you have to trust the process. I'm going to switch paintbrushes here. Of what you're supposed to put down. So I'm going to take a moment, and I want you to, if you're doing this with me, take a moment. You've mixed your colors, and say thank you. Thank you to Our Lady of Guadalupe for guiding you in what colors to put down. Now realize the colors you got to create and put down are going to probably be different than the colors I got to put down, because you are a different manifestation of oneness than I am, okay? You're in a different place. You're in a different place in your development of spiritual growth. You're in a different physical place. All that will be different on what you're guided to do. So the first thing I'm getting guided to do, which was nothing I mixed, but it was to put down some white paint. So I'm getting to just put down white paint. So I'm going to go with that. Now I'm probably going to have to get more white paint out because I don't have enough to probably do what I'm getting to do. So that's the thing, is you start off, and you're going to, as you do it, you're going to feel more guided of what to do next. I didn't have my paint thing down, my easel secured down. So now that I put out small amounts, and then once I get the guidance of what to do, if I feel like I have to put down more, I do, which I got to put down more, so I'm going to open it up, put a lot more down. Okay, so we're going to lay down white paint. And sometimes you just feel like, as you're painting, really move yourself aside and say, Spirit's the painter. Our Lady of Guadalupe is the painter. When I do my spirit guide portals, I am always doing my best to move my little self aside and let whatever spirit guide is coming through to do the painting. We're working with Our Lady of Guadalupe today because she is the epitome, she says, of creative energy. And we all have this creative energy within ourselves. And it's about how do you embrace that creative energy. Now you might be getting to not lay a color down. You might be getting to do little dots, and she wants me to show you. If you've watched me before, you know I've showed this, but I'm going to show it to you again. She said to new people, is this was created by just getting guidance to put dots down, to lay a dot down like this. And it started off with just dots making a line, and then it kept adding dots and more dots. And so I want you to follow what you're getting, not what I'm doing, okay? This is about what are you sensing to do? What are you sensing to put down? You're going to put down what you're sensing to get in whatever way you feel like you should do it, okay? And the other thing that can help if you feel like you're getting too much into your head, like if you hear that voice that says, this is stupid, or how is this going to work? Because I know I've had that voice in the past where, but it's to say, nope, we're going to thank you for sharing again. We're going to be open to the process. Okay? Open to the process. The experience, because if you're a mystic, this is all about how do you experience the divine. And experiencing the divine is partly like allowing the divine to flow through you of what to do. So I'm asking Our Lady of Guadalupe to flow through, telling me what to do. So now I start to lay the paint down, and she's saying, now make the paint brush go horizontal, because I was painting vertical. So I've changed it to go horizontal. Okay? And one of the things why I recommend highly about doing oil paints over acrylics, just because, and this, like again, you can do this with acrylics if you want to, is because oil paints don't dry that fast. And so I often, being, when I paint from my mind's eye, I'm not having something I can look at. I'm painting something that I saw on the ethereal plane, trying to put it onto this two-dimensional canvas, that I sometimes mix colors on the canvas. So oil paints allow you to do that. In fact, sometimes I come back the next day, depending on the color, and I get that it's supposed to be a different color. I mean, if it's a certain color, I'll put on different paint to make it a different shade, a different color, possibly because I want to mix it to look different. So when you're following the intuition, you just keep doing what you feel guided, even if it looks like it looks ugly or you don't like it. You just keep following what you're getting. I'm going to grab another paintbrush. And as you work on this, you're going to lay down the first layer and without trying to make it good or bad, just doing what you feel guided to do. Okay. Then we're going to and Our Lady of Guadalupe says in order for you to do this, you want to allow yourself at least, she's saying, a half an hour at a time to practice it. Now, she's not saying you have to do this every day, but she's saying a half an hour at a time where you feel free. She's saying if you can do an hour, it's even better because she's saying that part of the being in the free flow is just in the beginning, your mind might be activated more, and as you do it more, you're going to start to feel more of what you should be doing. So then as you do it, yes, you can see I'm getting guided to like mix some other colors. So getting guided to mix some other colors, and so you work with that. And the thing about when you're doing it to develop your intuition, it really is about allowing yourself to do what you think is a mistake. Because often what you think is a mistake is the very thing that will make your painting more fabulous than you thought it was going to be. So she wants me to point to Our Lady of Guadalupe. When I painted that, I got to put down this gray color on the background, and it was like really ugly. It was horrible looking. And it was so ugly because when I created Our Lady of Guadalupe, it was when I was in the art studio. My teacher at the time went by and said, "Oh my God, that's ugly." And I said, "Don't worry, it's not staying that way." But it was this gray, and then as I got more guidance, it was, oh, we're going to be painting colors over it, and you can see little hues of that gray bleeding through the yellow that I never would have known to do. So there's layering involved. And so when you are learning to trust and listen and hear your intuition, you have to start to go, okay, maybe this makes no sense right now, but I know something is going to be coming from this. I know it's going to be something good, okay? Because it is. You have to start to really trust it by trusting that everything in your life is happening for you. That spirit is always communicating, leading you towards what's going to make your life better, greater, more flow, okay? But you have to trust that. Because when I first started to have my first experience of my intuition coming through was when I was in my 20s, and I was wanting to buy a house before I was 30. And I was chanting and praying and taking actions towards buying a house, and then I got laid off from my job. And getting laid off from the job made me go, oh no, like something horrible has happened. And I thought that losing my job was going to be the worst thing ever, and that now it's messing up my plan, that I'm not going to be able to get my house before I'm 30, And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. If that hadn't happened, I never would have gotten my house before I was 30, because the job I had was never going to pay me enough to be able to put a down payment on my house when I was before I was 30. So I was laid off from one job and led to go to a sales job, because that job, I was able to make 3 times the amount of money I made. In my sales job than when I had in my marketing job. So you have to like trust when it looks ugly, because it looked ugly at that time. And at that time, I didn't trust it. I worried and cried and everything else. But then a year and a half later, I could see, like, oh, if I didn't lose that job, I would have never had my house. I was able to get the down payment on my house and put my money down when I was 28, because I got that sales job. See, but my logical mind was like, oh no, what's going to happen? But Spirit always knows. You know, our higher guidance, when you get that guidance, they know what you need. They know what wounds you have. They know what's going on that's preventing you, that's keeping you stuck. And what was keeping me stuck was my fear around having a sales job, because I thought, oh no, I want a safe paycheck. I wanted to know I can always get paid this certain amount of money. But that wasn't going to get me the money I needed, that feeling of safety and security that I needed, that was going to help me to get my sales job, get the money that I needed for my house. And so Spirit knew I had fear about that, needed a little push to get going. And that push was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it taught me how capable I was, and how there was no glass ceiling when I actually put out effort towards my own, of what I felt was true for me. It taught me to start listening and trusting my intuition and what was coming to me, rather than coming from my fears. Because the biggest thing that blocks your intuition and your ability to know is your fear. And how do you actually work with it? Yeah, I am getting it when I started doing it. John, you're right on. As I was putting down, I didn't know when Our Lady of Guadalupe wanted me to do it, that it was going to be coming like a beach scene. But I do think that's what it kind of looks like, a beach scene. That's what it's coming through as. I'm going to draw a little bit more this into here. Now this is not going to get finished today. This isn't necessarily about completing something when you sit down. It is about how do you actually start to just follow what you're getting and paying attention. But you have to do this more than once to get good at anything. What does it take? practice, right? And you want to get good at painting, you got to practice. You want to get good at following your intuition, you have to practice. You have to practice, practice, practice whatever you want to become good at. So I am not someone who usually paints beach scenes, but this is what I got to do today. And so we're going to see where it leads us. Because next week we're going to work on more of this about following your intuition. But here's the key that's going to be different next week, which is very important, because you can get all the intuitive downloads in the world, but if you don't trust it enough to actually follow it, it doesn't get you anywhere. So I got the download from Our Lady of Guadalupe that it was going to be about trust next week. Like, how do you get the trust that you need to follow the guidance? Because that's what really transformed my life, was when I started to trust what I was getting. Curious if anybody has had challenges with trusting their intuition, with following the guidance they get. And look at the comments. I know I haven't looked at it much today. What's this say? Yeah, looking like it say, what's your question? I don't know what that is, John. The beach person, blue wheelchair race person race? I'm not familiar with what that is. So I can't tell you if I like it because I don't know what it is. Now here's the thing. When you paint, and in life, when you follow that intuition, is to also, when you taking a step back and looking at what you need to do differently. Oh, you know what? I don't know what to do with my glasses. Look at there. So I'm taking a step back out of the frame. There's definitely going to be more to it, but yeah. Totally looks like a little beach scene. For some reason, Our Lady of Guadalupe wanted me to do that. So I would love it if people would actually try this out, of doing what Our Lady of Guadalupe said about what's the sky. See how they do with the listening process. And Our Lady of Guadalupe actually wants you to practice it. She's saying at least twice a week. if you can, because that twice a week is going to help you. And then after you do this practice, she's saying for you to go out into life and pay attention. Pay attention, because the proof comes in what you notice, like what's changing in your life, what are you noticing? That you feel different? Are you feeling more secure? Because the whole thing about following your intuition is knowing that you're not alone in all this. It really comes down to that. You're not alone in all this. Often feels like we are, right? But you're not. You're not alone in this. And when you actually trust your intuition, then you really start to feel a level of security and ease. You know, that's where that flow and ease comes in, is knowing that, oh, I'm not alone in all this. This is it's not just me. It's one thing about, since the spirit guides have started to come to me, that I feel much more secure. Because like when I don't feel like I know for myself what to do, I go and I ask, and I get guidance of what to do. So, our little Guadalupe wants me to ask, does anybody have any questions about the process? She'd love it if you'd commit to doing it. Put it into the comments. Because if you're really serious about being able to create your life in a way where you have that more flow and ease, and that you want to follow those intuitive guidance messages, the downloads to bring that flow and ease, you have to be willing to commit some time. So she's asking you, are you willing to commit a little time and energy to it? And if so, put it in the comments, because if you keep it to yourself, it's not really a commitment. Unless you really say to yourself, no, I'm doing this. It's a commitment that I'm doing. So I'd love to see it if you want to put a commitment up there for yourself. I'm going to step back out of the screen for a little bit just to see what it looks like. See if there's anything else. And one of the things when I see it, I'm always kind of checking in too with, yeah. Checking in with Mother Mary. If there's anything else she wants me to do differently. No questions? Anything about intuition? You can ask a question about painting if you want. About painting with spirit. Question about the membership if you have some curiosity about it. Again, next week we're going to be talking about trusting your intuition, because it's one thing about knowing that you get some downloads, but how can you actually trust it? I'm curious to see what they say. It's going to be, obviously, every time I do this, I ask a guide to come in and volunteer and tell me what they want to share. We're going to no questions. And we're going to be wrapping it up here. Actually, I've been here for longer than I thought it was going to be. It's on here. So turn around. I'm going to step back once more just looking at it, because this was fun for me. It's not done, but it's always fun for me to try something new and just go with what I'm being guided to do. Live in the moment and be conscious. Yeah. So thank you so much to everybody again. If you like what you see and want to learn about how you trust your intuition, next week we're going to talk about that. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. It all helps my channel. This is my little, see, I'm an artist by True and True. This is my little thumbs up hand that I made out of clay. That it's one of these clays that never ever, you don't have to go and get it put in a kiln or anything. So I'm not quite understanding the yellow podium, blue person, yellow. But thank you for sharing, John. I always like seeing your comments and your shares. And the last time you shared, you actually really helped, with the guidance. It's always just a treat to get to channel whatever I'm getting. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you next week. Again, it's going to be about, we talked about the process of doing this. I'd love to hear, like I said, any of you who do it, what you do over the next week. And you can watch this over if you need to kind of go through the process. Doing it's the prayer of intention, sit and breathe, really focus on what you're being guided to do. I know there was a couple other things in there, but I'm going from memory. All right. Blessings to all. See you next week.